For more than 50 years, Mastercard has pioneered technology to make payments simpler, smarter, and safer. In its second edition, Mastercard's 2022 New Payment Index focuses on the rise of omni-channel commerce, the shift to emerging payment technologies, and forward-looking consumer behavior trends. J.K. Khalil is the Cluster General Manager of MENA East at Mastercard, which spans the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, and Pakistan. And Mr. Khalil joins us here at the Mastercard Regional Hub at Dubai Media City. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Mastercard research shows that the adoption of new payment technologies is increasing exponentially. Tell us a little bit about these technologies.
Oh, that's a fantastic question, actually. So, in my mind, I split them between two categories, right? What are the new payment trails and our new payment methods? I would say the big categories of payment trails that we're seeing that are rising are things like Remittance, which is a huge technology, I would say, surge that we've seen driven by the distancing that was created because of the pandemic and the lockdowns. So pretty much people needed to connect with their families, all the way to things that are much more in tune with the digital sort of lives of the Gen Z and the millennials recently, like crypto, people buying crypto to basically acquire NFTs or partake in the metaverse. All the way to things that are much more mundane, like buy now, pay later type of new rails and new technologies that facilitate people's access to technologies, but also different kinds of payment methods, such as people using pay by face, getting more comfortable with sort of three-way authentication when they're doing e-commerce online and that kind of stuff. All the way to the much more super mundane, I would say, like contactless payments, which I think has become almost like everybody's much more, I would say, a go-to. More like the go-to payment method recently.
Now, the Mastercard Payments Index reveals that UAE consumers are increasingly using at least one emerging payment method, and some of them are using them very frequently. What is really driving this trend?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the 2022 edition of the Mastercard's New Payment Index reveals that indeed about 2/3 of people in the UAE specifically, for instance, if we compare them to globally, where about 60% of people have increased their use of a new digital payment method. And I would say up to 90% of people have at least, have increased their, or been exposed to at least one form of a new digital payment method over the last year. I think what's driving it is predominantly, I would say, things like people, first of all, getting much more comfortable with technology and realizing how secure it's become, but also people preferring basically the contact-free, the contactless economy, and the whole sort of new lifestyle that we had to adopt to during the pandemic. I think really was the biggest driver for people to adopt these new technologies. We believe about 20% of the behaviors that we've acquired actually during COVID are here to stay, and at the very least, I think it's a very conservative estimate. And so things like contact-free, people buying their groceries online, people being much more comfortable to shop from their homes versus going to malls and physical brick and mortar stores. I think that's all here to stay, most likely.
Now, we know that new digital payment methods can make transactions easier, safer, faster, but certainly there are some downsides.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, while we believe that we have, in the last maybe 2-3 years, been able to experience life in a completely different way, and our way of shopping, of paying, of acquiring goods and services have tremendously changed, it's also true that cybercrime has been increasing quite rapidly as well. I think there's some Fed estimate that cybercrime grows 4 times faster than e-commerce, if you were to think about it this way. Look, but I think typically, and if you think about it also, it is just a new way of getting used to our new lifestyle, right? The digital lifestyle. So naturally, the most exposed to it will be those who are the most, let's say, the least, I would say, resilient part of the ecosystem or the economy, typically smaller digital businesses, right? I would say they are 4 times more at risk, or they have been attacked 4 times more than their large corporate counterparts, obviously because large corporates are much more prepared. And what Mastercard does in that regard is obviously partner with as many as possible and make some of our assets even free for these SMEs and for the more, I would say, at-risk segments of the business community. if I were to just think about our ambition, right, which is to include 1 billion people and 25 million SMEs into the digital economy by 2025, the only way for us to be able to do that is to actually increase trust and safety in the ecosystem as well. So it's kind of part of our vocation to do the right thing by our constituents in the market, whether they're consumers or SMEs and businesses.
And just staying on the subject of your clients, how is Mastercard really supporting its clients in the broader payments ecosystem as this new digital offering really continues to evolve?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, the way the Mastercard's journey has kind of been defined over the last 60 years, I would say, it started with like us being pretty much a single rail company focusing on credit cards and plastic in general, up until maybe 10 years ago, excuse me, where we had become really a multi-rail company. Now, in the multi-rail kind of universe, you kind of have to embed yourself across the entire ecosystem. So we partner from anyone from a telco to a payment services provider, a payments enabler or processor, merchants, e-tailers, obviously banks are primary partners, so I'm not going to mention those. But I'm trying to say is we pretty much, governments, right, a huge segment for us, airlines and so on. So there isn't really a part of any economy or digital economy for that matter that we do not touch. And so pretty much we've gone from a payments single rail to a multi-rail to pretty much a payments matrix enabling an entire ecosystem. And our partnerships recently kind of speak to that, whether it's the recent investment we've done in Hyperpay in Saudi Arabia, to the recent partnership we signed with Nimcard, Bank al-Falah in Pakistan, all the way to the many fintech engagements we've had, whether it's Inspire or very recently Camel Pay, and many others actually in the pipeline. There's just too many to mention. It just speaks to how we're really connecting that whole payments matrix and really enabling digital economy into the future across the board.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.